So many of us are eager to figure out our spiritual gifts, right? Especially the ones Paul lists in Romans 12. But what if the first question we ask isn't, what's my gift? What if we've been missing the first step? Today, we're going to go deeper than the list. We're going to uncover the why, the incredible foundation Paul builds before he even gets to the gifts themselves.
So you've probably seen a chart like this before, right? The motivational gifts wheel. It's super helpful. We love finding our spot on it. But here's the thing. The Apostle Paul doesn't start with the list. He starts with the foundation. And that's really the big question for us in this explainer. What is the bedrock that these gifts are actually supposed to be built on?
So where do we even begin to look for this bedrock? Well, it all starts in what a lot of scholars call the great theological hinge of Romans. It's this one specific point where Paul just pivots from some of the deepest theology you'll ever read to real life.
Okay, try to picture this. For 11 straight chapters, Paul has been laying out this massive, mind-blowing case for God's grace, for our sin, for this incredible plan of salvation. And then he kicks off chapter 12 with one simple but powerful word: therefore. That one word, that's the bridge. It connects everything we believe with how we actually live. It's the link from the what of our faith to the so what of our lives. And that's what sets the stage for everything that follows, including the gifts.
So what's the very first step we take across that bridge? It's a call that's pretty radical. It's a call to completely rethink what worship even is, to blow it way beyond just a Sunday morning routine.
So based on everything he just spent 11 chapters explaining, all of God's mercy, Paul urges them, and us, to do two huge things. First, offer your bodies as a living sacrifice. And second, be transformed by renewing your mind. These aren't just suggestions. They are the two pillars that hold up the entire Christian life.
You can really see three clear actions here. First, you present your body. Then you stop conforming, and finally, you allow yourself to be transformed. And this isn't some checklist you just tick off. It's more like a process, a sequence that really gets to the core of what it means to live out your faith.
Now, you have to understand, this idea of a living sacrifice would have sounded, kind of crazy. To his original audience, a sacrifice by its very definition was dead. It was a one-time thing on an altar. But Paul's idea is completely revolutionary. Your whole life, your actual body, your thoughts, your choices, that is the worship. It's not a ritual you perform. It becomes the reality you live.
And this brings us to a really key distinction Paul makes. Conformity is all about external pressure, right? It's the world squeezing you into its own mold. But transformation, that's totally different. Paul uses the Greek word metamorpho. We get our word metamorphosis from it. Think a caterpillar into a butterfly. It's a fundamental change from the inside out, and it all starts with the renewing of your mind.
But here's the thing. This isn't a solo journey. This individual transformation isn't meant to happen in a vacuum. Paul immediately pivots to talk about community, and he uses a metaphor that was really common at the time, the body, but he uses it in a way that absolutely nobody in Rome would have seen coming.
Let's just put ourselves in their shoes for a second. If you're living in first-century Rome, a place that is all about status and power and hierarchy, when you hear someone talk about society as a body, what's the first thing that's going to pop into your head?
For them, it meant one thing: a rigid pyramid of power. In Roman politics, the body metaphor was a tool to keep everyone in their place. The elites, the senators, the super wealthy, they were the head, the brains of the operation. Everybody else, the workers, the slaves, you were the hands and feet. You existed to serve the needs of the top. It was literally a metaphor for domination.
And this is where it gets really wild. You can see just how radical Paul's vision was. He takes their metaphor of hierarchy, and he just completely flips it on its head. Where Rome said status is all about your birth or your money, Paul says, nope, it's all based on grace. Where Rome said the lower parts exist to serve the elite, Paul says every single part serves the whole. It's just incredible. So what Paul does is he basically democratizes the body. Every single person, it didn't matter if you were a Jew or a Gentile, a slave or free, is now a vital, essential organ. He drives home this idea of mutual dependence, that we are members one another. I mean, this was a direct shot at the Roman obsession with rank, status, and being self-sufficient. Okay, so now with this entire foundation of a transformed life and this countercultural community all laid out, now Paul is finally ready to talk about the gifts.
And this is where we see grace in action.
And just listen to the language he uses. The Greek word for these spiritual gifts is charismata, and it comes directly from the Greek word for grace, which is charis. That's not an accident. The gifts aren't achievements. They're not status symbols we earn to look good. They are, quite literally, grace things. They are tangible expressions of God's unearned favor working through each of us.
So we come full circle back to this wheel, but we're looking at it completely differently now, aren't we? These gifts aren't just random skills we happen to have. They are the natural, practical outflow of everything we just talked about. A life fully offered to God, a mind that's being renewed, and a deep commitment to serving others in this new kind of community.
So what's the bottom line? What's the real purpose of these gifts? Well, they're not for us to promote ourselves. They are tools for building up the community. They are meant to produce service and unity and humility. And this brings it all the way back to the beginning, because your whole life is an act of worship. Faithfully using your gift is a powerful act of worship.
And that leaves us with one last vital question to think about. Before we even ask what our gift is, we have to remember why we have it in the first place. So if our true and proper worship is our entire life offered back to God, how is your unique gift, whatever it may be, an act of that worship today?